Welcome to PresiceTarget's first episode of The Retail Record. We launched this fireside chat style Zoom series in an effort to cultivate meaningful discussions around trending topics in retail, e-commerce, and the industry's future. Our COO, Liddy Mason, met with COO at Rowing Blazers, Katelyn Glass. They spoke about digital trends in e-commerce in 2020. Enjoy.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Liddy Mason. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of PresiceTarget. So tell me a little bit about how you're assessing the future with bricks and mortar retail being quite fragile right now. How has that shifted the way you're thinking about reaching your customers, and how has your strategy around e-commerce changed in the past 6 months?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the reasons that drew me to Rowing Blazers in the first place was Jack's incredible positioning on the distribution of the brands. From the get-go, wholesale was never going to be a large part of his model. He really takes pride in the ownership of who we are and that control over our positioning. You know, it's hard. Right now, we're 100% digital. We have a few key wholesale partners. We're in Beams in Japan, and we're doing very minimal expansion there. And then there's other areas where we're just exiting out of wholesale. For our actual brick and mortar retail strategy, you're absolutely right. We have our clubhouse right here in Soho in New York City. We had select pop-ups prior to COVID. And you know, it's definitely a strategy for us moving forward. It's not, retail expansion isn't our first and foremost priority, and I don't know if it ever will be. It's a really tough climate for us to say exactly where and when. I know if you had asked us back in February, we would say, yeah, we absolutely want to do a pop-up out east in Montauk or the Hamptons this summer. The reality of that coming to fruition, everything has kind of been upended. But who knows? You'll see some retail plays from us in the next 12 to 18 months, but largely we've shifted most things to e-com.
And are you thinking, you know, as we look at the market as data scientists, we're seeing obviously a reaction to brick and mortar being closed for quite some time, but we're also seeing some trends that the shift to e-commerce in many cases has been more comfortable and more seamless for people than I think many anticipated. And we're trying to do some research into how much of it really will come back to retail and what the role of retail will be in the future. Are you guys thinking about that, and how do you assess the market? How are you watching your competitors and comparators navigate these waters?
Yeah, you know, we try not to be too cognizant, not cognizant, too mindful of letting others in our space sort of dictate our direction and what we do. That said, I think as we view our retail space, we have always viewed our clubhouse in Soho as a place for people to not only interact with our product and our clothing and our accessories, but to truly immerse themselves in the world of Rowing Blazers. We've always viewed that clubhouse as a place for just activations. We used to have monthly, sometimes twice a month parties at our clubhouse, which given COVID has been a little tough to activate those sort of fans of ours in person. But we hope to get back to that soon. We loved the fact that we have this amazing space in New York City, this huge footprint that sort of serves as our billboard here in New York, to help us engage on sort of a deeper level with our customers. E-com wise will likely continue to be our largest sort of channel of conversion. But we hope to always have that footprint so that people can interact with us here in our home base of New York.
Mm-hmm. How have you changed your digital strategy and specifically your content strategy in this new world? And what about those changes do you think will stay?
Yeah, you know, we have found just how engaged our audience and our community for Rowing Blazers is through this process. And what I mean by that is sort of immediately when we started work from home, which jokes on me, back in March, I thought we would be doing this for a week.
Yeah.
We immediately launched sort of a viral work from home rugby gang campaign. We encouraged everyone to get online and share what their work from home style was. Our product category in and of itself lends itself to a very work from home, relaxed, casual style. I currently have on one of our rugbies. I live in our wide leg trousers because they're just comfy at my desk and still professional and makes it feel like I'm going to work. So we saw a lot of that, and we saw a lot of engagement on our social platforms with that sort of work from home style. Since then, we've evolved our digital strategy. We took a deep, hard look at our email strategy, what the right complexion of emails was, how many. We didn't want to be that annoying brand during this time that sent out 1 million emails just because we knew you were at home and not going anywhere. We also launched a really, really fun summer concert series, which we've talked about potentially continuing through the fall, where about once a week, depending upon what's going on in the market or the world, we will have a live concert with friends, family, whomever is sort of willing to participate, really. And it's just sort of a live series that we hope to keep going however long this lasts. We've been doing, it's just been amazing to see how supportive our fan base is throughout this entire time.
And you mentioned to me that you had done a little bit of a production pivot, taken some of your fabric to make masks. Can you talk a little bit about that and what other product changes you might have made?
Yeah, Jack, one of the other reasons why I absolutely love what we do at Rowing Blazers is Jack from the beginning wanted to get ahead of this and say, we do not want to be a part of the problem and exacerbate COVID. We are going to do every step following CDC guidelines, following everything. He was very proactive. Closing the shop, he was very proactive in saying, listen, we're not going to reopen until we are sure it's safe. And a part of that was also contributing to the solution. From the get-go in early March, Jack was like, hey, how do we get masks? Let's do this. Let's figure out a way to do it. But also staying true to who we are and doing it in a sustainable way. One of our bespoke blazer manufacturers here in New York was able to take some of that scrap fabric and what we had sort of remaining and create a face mask program for us. And one of the reasons why we have seen such a strong growth over the past quarter and a half really has been with the sort of execution of our face mask program. It's the fabrics people know and love. It's true to who we are. Everything from the label on the face mask is the label in our rugbies. We didn't want to sort of just say, okay, let's go out and get some fabric and buy into all of these new things. It was, we had this, we want to solve this crisis here in New York and globally even. And it's been, for me personally, it's been one of the most honorable things, if for lack of a better word, in my career that I've participated in, just to see how many masks we've been able to produce, but then we also donate one for every one we sell. So we've now donated over 10,000 masks to food banks here in New York City. And it's just been an honor to be a part of that solution.
Tell me a little bit about you're on the one hand, being an early entrant into the market is challenging. And on the other hand, when there's a massive disruption, it can be a real advantage. And we're seeing in the market just massive discounting of clothes that had already been shipped to retailers. Retailers were closed, or clothing that was anticipating a robust spring party season, robust office wear. You've been lucky enough that your clothing is a fairly good fit for the behavioral changes that have come along with COVID. But it also sounds like you've changed your product mix a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your supply chain, how you use data and demand to understand how to manufacture and come into your supply chain, how that's changed during this e-commerce boom, and how you're thinking about that with your business going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of have two little voices in my ear. The quant in me is screaming, hey, none of this makes sense, the world is on fire. And the other person in me is saying, hey, slow and steady. I think one of the main impacts COVID has had on our business was it exacerbated and sort of accelerated all of the gaps we had in our supply chain. We knew sort of as a growing brand that in the next 12 to 18 months, we had XYZ benchmarks to improve our supply chain, improve our experience to customers. COVID hit and we accelerated our growth so drastically that it also exposed all of those gaps. We overall have taken a much more critical approach to not only what our inventory on hand looks like and the rate of turn of that, but what that means for the future. What our buys look like, how they are affected by what our increase in demands looks like, what our category complexion is and how that's shifted. We do a fairly large third-party business and sell other local emerging designers on our site, and sort of what the complexion of that even looks like. A perfect example of that is we launched one of our large collaborations with Fila. It feels like years ago. I think that was about a month and a half ago now. And we launched this amazing sneaker. And after the first day, I looked at selling and was like, this is a category that traditionally has sold really well for us. What's going on? And then I realized, well, hey, I haven't put shoes on in 2 weeks, right. And I'm sure a lot of other people haven't either. And at that basic level, we sort of were like, how do we adjust? How do we react to this? You'll see we launched a collection. God, also that was like a month and a half ago. It feels so long ago. Of terry cloth, really comfy work from home style terry cloth blazers that still give you that sort of professional look, but being that sort of work from home aesthetic. And we've just taken a much more critical eye in sort of the entire supply chain, from start of design to actual getting it in our warehousing and getting it out to customers, sort of all of that.
Tell me a little bit about how you are acquiring new customers right now, and how your strategy about personalization and targeted outreach has evolved. Now that, again, you can't sort of pick people up at events, you've got to draw them into you. Tell me a little bit about methodologies you're using and what you're seeing in the industry.
Yeah, our channels of attribution, or sort of acquisition and attribution, have pretty much evolved drastically in the last 6 to 9 months. I think when we look at our engaging our existing audience, we've evolved our email strategy in the times of COVID to sort of adjust to that and continually keep this motivated audience that we have who've made a purchase with us engaged over time, launching new products. In terms of acquiring actual new customers, we've relied heavily on the engagement we've seen through social channels. We have a very active audience who at some point have said, I've heard about this Rowing Blazers. I'll raise my hand and show some interest, but I've never actually made a purchase. And we've done a lot of clienteling from even our customer service reach outs, VIP customers throughout this, of sort of reaching out to people who have somewhat seemed engaged in our product, in our brand, as well as we've relied on a lot of lookalike audience marketing for sort of some paid digital, some display. We'll never be the brand to sort of go after and sort of open the floodgates, if you will, for all of these new consumers. We do things sort of methodically and very, very strategic when we go after
people who have a taste for what you do, right?
Yeah, we target, in the last 6 months, we've worked with everyone from Fila to US Rowing. I literally, the list can go on and on. We launched Bose product. All of these different brands have really been helpful in acquiring a new customer for us that might not have heard about us before. We've got a great partnership with Sperry Topsider, and they'll include us in their emails when we launch some sort of exclusive products here, which we have a really strong following of people who shop Sperry. I'll never forget, I called Jack, it was like 11 o'clock at night. My dad actually called me and said, hey, I just got an email that said Sperry times Rowing Blazers. Like, do you know about this? Like, well, yeah, Dad, it's what I do. And it's our collaborations have really just opened us up to a new audience and helped get the word out, really. We also have an amazing PR team. And Jack has been in the forefront of sort of this COVID crisis that we're in trying to sort of really be a part of the solution, and therefore kind of being available for interviews and getting his name out there here in New York.
Yeah, and I mean, I could tell you, as someone who came of age during the last preppy rage, I rocked those Sperry's, and I rocked them with shirts just like this. So I'm feeling young again, let me be clear. Question for you, as you think about 2020, particularly Christmas season, and then going into 2021, what's your forecast about the large sort of wholesale marketplaces, the wholesale brands going into third-party retail environments? Is that forever changed? If you had a crystal ball, what would it be telling you right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the marketer and retailer in me wants to say everything's cyclical and it'll bounce back and we'll be here. But I do think, and not even just through COVID, I think with everything that has impacted us globally in the last sort of 6 months, be it George Floyd and the protests, be it COVID itself, I think there's a real appetite out there for brands that are authentic and brands that are genuine. And I think as it pertains to wholesale, the status quo isn't going to be acceptable anymore. And I think wholesale accounts and wholesale partners of ours need to, and not even wholesale partners of ours, wholesale are out everywhere in the world, department stores, whatever, they need to take a very strong critical look at what the brands are that they're supporting and who they carry and why, and what that sort of authenticity piece is. Not to sort of harp on this cancel culture, but I think you, for the first time, are really seeing an audience who is really sticking to their guns about who and where they'll spend their money. And so to say that wholesale has changed and marketplace purchasing has changed, I think is absolutely true. I think it'll continue to be this way. I think to a point, it's always going to be there. It's the complexion of the brands they'll carry will probably change over time.
Yeah, no, we're definitely seeing in our data a greater vocalization and commitment to specific types of brand statements by manufacturers and manufacturing practices. And we're seeing Gen Z dig their heels in a way that prior generations didn't. And it is a really interesting time to see what a brand needs to do in its underpinnings in order to, fit the buying criteria of the audiences they're serving. I think it's a fascinating time. So,
yeah.
All right, so we're right at the half-hour mark. Thank you so, so much. This has been a great conversation. Appreciate your insights and appreciate your thoughts. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate the time. Thank you.